Hi everyone. I hope you guys are having an amazing weekend. Welcome to the second session. So, in the previous lecture, we talked about wallets in detail, where we spoke about exchange, hardware, paper, and software wallets. Today, let's take it to the next level. We are going to do some elements of practical investigation, and we are also going to do some discussion about some of the important cryptocurrencies that are there. Now, it'll be great if all of you can log into your Future Money wallet account. So, in the first email that you got, I'd given all of you your username and passwords. If you could just log in. Those of you who are unable to log in, no problem. You can follow with the screen. So, let me presume that you guys are either logged in or you're looking at it here. So, the first thing that I want you to understand is when we click on this markets, we see that there are about 9,975 active cryptos out of a total of almost 19,000. Now, while this number keeps changing every day, there are a very large number of cryptos, but it's important for us to remember that all of them are not currencies. So when we use the word cryptocurrencies, that signifies a crypto which is actually used as a currency, as a medium of exchange, because there are many other types which are not really relevant for us from the point of view of a crypto investigator. As investigators, we usually focus only on currencies. Of course, there may be some cases where we need to do NFTs also, because sometimes they're used for money laundering. So it is important for us to know that all cryptos are not the same. They could all be doing different functions. And if you click on this button here, which is called Future Currency Index, so you'd go to a page which looks like this. And I want you to scroll down a little bit and come to this part, which is investigator resources. So here I have some useful links that I put for you guys, and we will be using those in our discussion today also. So what we will do today is let's start with the concept of Bitcoin and then look at how to investigate. So the first thing that we need to understand about Bitcoin is that it was the world's first cryptocurrency. It has its own blockchain, which is called the Bitcoin blockchain. Now, the first thing which is of relevance to us as an investigator is the Explorer. So if you were to click on this Explorer tab here, this link, it would open up a page like this. In any blockchain, the Explorer is a web interface where you can see all the transactions that are happening on that particular platform in real time. As and when transactions are happening, we can see great detail about them. So right now, if you look at the Bitcoin Explorer main page here, so the price and all is not really relevant to us here. Now, this is interesting that in the last 24 hours, there have been 249,029 transactions. We could click here and go deeper, or we could just see what else is showing up here. So as we scroll down, we see latest blocks and latest transactions. Now, what we must remember is that in any blockchain, why is it called a blockchain? Because there are going to be blocks which are connected to each other in a chain. And inside each block, there are going to be transactions. How many transactions? Depends upon the cryptocurrency, depends upon the number of transactions actually happening. So some cryptos like Bitcoin can hold a smaller number of transactions in a block. Some like say a Solana can hold much more because the technology is quite new and upgraded. Inside each block, we are going to have multiple transactions, and blocks are generated every few minutes or seconds depending on the blockchain. In Bitcoin, on an average, a new block gets created every 10 minutes. But if we look here, we realize that the block just before right now was generated 11 minutes ago, and the one before that 13 minutes, 20 minutes, 21 minutes, 39 minutes. So we suddenly realize it is not like every block is happening exactly after 10 minutes. But if you look at a longer scale, the average is going to be every 10 minutes. Again, doesn't matter too much to us. What we as investigators are interested in are the transactions. So let's say we just click into one. So it's just a random transaction I've taken. And I can see that, okay, in this transaction, so much fee was paid. And now I'm beginning to see what the transaction involved. Who sent money to whom? How much? When did that actually happen? So if we look here, this part becomes relevant to us. So this transaction was first broadcast to the Bitcoin network on April 16th, 2022 at 3:04 p.m. GMT. The transaction is currently unconfirmed by the network. So this process of confirmation is also called mining. So there are some people called miners. They put a lot of computers and computational power and electricity to mine. Now, if you're interested in knowing technically how mining works, I'll share a tech video with you afterwards. But right now, we don't need to get too deep in. Now, a Bitcoin transaction on an average, once you push it to the network, should be confirmed in 10 minutes. But it is possible that after 30 minutes, it is cancelled. That is why in Bitcoin, we usually wait for 60 minutes, that's 1 hour, before we are reasonably sure the transaction will not be reversed. Now, if you compare this to your bank, you'll say, look, banking transactions are much faster, and that's true. Bitcoin transactions are much slower, and they can be rejected later. That is the reason we usually wait for 60 minutes, and then we can say, okay, the transaction seems to have gone through. Any questions so far? All simple?
None.
All clear?
Clear.
Okay. Now here we can also see, let's just click on one of this and see what this is going to open up for us. So now this is an address. So now let's say that there is a criminal and from him we have managed to recover Bitcoin addresses. We can go to an explorer and enter the address here and it will show us details about that address. What all does it show us? It shows us that till now, how many transactions has that address been involved in? So 30. How many Bitcoins has it received till today? How many has it sent? And whether it has any balance as of right now. And then we can scroll down and we can actually see details of every single transaction that that address has ever done in its life. And this kind of makes it easy for us to understand what all the criminal may have been up to. That is why we call Bitcoin as a pseudo-anonymous blockchain, which means it is not completely anonymous. Right? We are able to get details of addresses, but we don't know who's the person behind the address. Now, when we catch a criminal and we get one address, we can find all his transactions of the past. And then we can start investigating other addresses with which he may have exchanged large number of Bitcoins. And then that kind of helps us to piece the whole thing together. There are some blockchains which are called anonymous blockchains. There we get no data. We can't figure out addresses, amounts, nothing. Which is why today a lot of the more tech-savvy criminals have actually moved on to privacy coins like Monero. We're going to discuss them later. And Bitcoin in the criminal world today is primarily being used by the ransomware industry. So ransomware is where, you know, they lock up your computer and then you have to pay some ransom in Bitcoin and then you get a code to unlock your data. Now, because ransomware providers need to take money from people around the world who may not be tech-savvy, they take it only in Bitcoin because that's easy for people to buy and give. The smarter criminals who are into other criminal activities use privacy coins like Monero. And here, like I said, we can just click and we can go deeper into addresses and almost everything that we need to know about these addresses is easily available to us. Any questions? Okay.
No.
Now, another thing I wanted to know about Bitcoin is this concept of a Bitcoin ATM. So if you click on this ATM map, it'll open up this kind of a screen. So there are about 36,724 crypto ATMs in the world as of right now. There may be more, but this particular site tracks about 36,000 plus in 76 countries. And here we can see on the world map, all the countries are there. And then you can go in deeper and actually see where are these ATMs located. Now, a crypto ATM is similar to a conventional banking ATM. The only difference would be is in a banking ATM, you will only get your currency, whereas in a crypto ATM, you could get different cryptos. So here, we can actually select. So if I click on Bitcoin, now it is showing me only the Bitcoin ATMs of the world. Or if I want to see Bitcoin Cash, now it is showing me only Bitcoin Cash ATM. So you notice, when I did Bitcoin Cash, the numbers really come down. The maximum that you find are going to be Bitcoin ATMs. Then there is something called the Lightning Bitcoin. So that's a special technology which makes Bitcoin transactions much faster. Primarily in El Salvador, that is being used today because their Bitcoin has become legal tender. But the moment we do Bitcoin, we see so many ATMs available. So depending upon whichever country you are in. So if you're a law enforcement officer in any of these countries, you should use this map and figure out where the ATMs in your country are, because it may be possible if crypto is illegal in your country, then those ATMs are also illegal. So you could take action against them, or keeping track of it would help you to know where are the crypto users sometimes going to get their currency. And you notice here, these are the cryptos of which you have ATM. So you have Bitcoin Cash, Ethereum, Dash, Litecoin, Zcash, Monero, what I just spoke about, Dogecoin, Tether, and Ripple. So this also gives us an indication that these are the cryptos that are actually used as currencies. You'll realize that Solana, for example, is not here. Well, people don't use Solana as a medium of exchange. So as an investigator, you don't need to bother too much about it. But definitely the ones that are here are the cryptos that you are going to be looking at carefully. All clear? Okay. Now another thing I wanted to discuss briefly is the Ethereum network. So there also they have their own Bitcoin blockchain explorer. Name is different here. It's called Etherscan. Now what I want to show you is that in a blockchain, you can actually also hide information. So let's take an example. A few months ago, there was a very big hack called the Poly network. So some hacker hacked into a blockchain or a network called Poly network. Now he took millions of dollars of crypto away, but he started communicating with the project owners or the project members, and this is how he was communicating. What he was doing was he was making transactions on the Ethereum network, but in the transaction he was adding some message for those project leaders. So he said, what if I make a new token out of the ones that I have stolen, and let the DAO, which is the decentralized autonomous organization, let the DAO decide where the tokens should go. So we notice in many cases now, criminals can use blockchains or the blockchain networks to communicate. Right? This is kind of, you can consider it like a ransom letter also. So in the conventional kidnapping, suppose the criminal would send some information. In today's world, this information could be sent over a blockchain network, but the difference is it's forever. Once this transaction has gone through, this message will always be visible. The default format is like this, but then when you go down and do UTF-8, so here you are able to see the transaction in plain English. And this could become useful when we are investigating different kinds of cases. And if you are logged into this Explorer, then you can write your own points here. So during an investigation, if you're getting a lot of information and you want to keep notes, you can do that here as a private note, right? So this could be kept here. Clear? Any questions? Okay. Then another thing that I wanted to talk to you guys about. So we've seen this. Now let's have a deeper look at wallets. Now I explained to you the last time that there are different kinds of wallets. There are hardware wallets, software wallets, exchange wallets, and paper wallets. But now I need you to understand that for you, the most important thing to understand is what are all the different kinds of wallets around them, right? Because you cannot predict which wallet a criminal is using, and only when you're comfortable with the names and you can recall them. It's like, suppose you were doing a conventional investigation and there are hundreds of kinds of guns. Now each gun has different kinds of bullets, and those leave different kinds of marks, or the bullets look different. Similarly, there are so many different wallets. They look different, they behave different. At the end of the day, they're doing the same thing, but their software signatures are also different. So as an investigator, it is important for you to know all the popular wallets. So here what I've done is, for each of these cryptos, there's a link called wallets. When you click on it, like let's say an example of Bitcoin. So here, if I skip the helper, it says, okay, what kind of wallet? So suppose I say I'm looking for an Android wallet, and here it shows me all the names. Now I can click one by one, open it up, see what the wallet looks like, understand what are the features it has, and then if possible, you should try to map the signatures. What are the kind of files that this leaves behind on, let's say, a cell phone or a laptop? So let's say you've got a criminal, you have his phone or the laptop. Now you would do a forensic analysis, but what are you looking for? That is what will help you if you install these various wallets on test devices and then do a forensic analysis. So if I want to know Apple, then there's a new list here. If I want to look at desktop wallets, so these are the Linux ones which are available. There are tons and tons of them. These are the Mac ones. These are the Windows ones. So like this, for every crypto, on their website, they provide a list of all the compatible wallets. So it would be useful for you to actually have a look at it. All clear?
Clear.
Awesome. Let's go back here and look at some of the other links here. So this is for each of the cryptos. Now, one very interesting thing is sending email over the Ethereum blockchain. Now, this is another very interesting thing. In many cases, I've noticed this, that a criminal, instead of using a Gmail address, would use an Ethereum address to send and receive emails. Because we don't know from an address who's the person behind it. But when that same person goes to open a Gmail account, he ends up giving an alternative email ID. His IP address gets taken by Gmail. He may have a mobile phone required for two-factor authentication. So a conventional email address is not very private, which is the reason they use ETH mail. That's one of the options. There are many other things that they can have. Now, how do you log in? So I want all of you to try this along with me. So just go to ethmail.cc. Now, when you go here and you click on login. So in the blockchain world, we usually do not use username passwords. We connect applications to our wallet. You know, I spoke to you about the MetaMask wallet, for example. So when I go to this site, it is not asking me for a username password. In a normal website, say Gmail, they ask you for your email ID and password. Here, it says log in to this site with what? So let's say I click on Ethereum wallet. Now when I open this, it shows me that these are the wallets that are supported by this site. I click on MetaMask. Now my MetaMask is in the same browser. So it has immediately recognized that this is one of my addresses. So I say, okay, select. Now we give it some time. Okay. Are you able to see something called signature request on my screen? Yes or no?
No.
Okay, let me just.
No.
Okay, I get the problem. Let me share my entire desktop. Now, are you able to see it?
Yeah.
Yes.
So what happened was when I clicked there, a pop-up opened up. So what does this really mean? In a conventional email, we use username and password, and then we may get an OTP. In the Web3 world, our MetaMask wallet has recognized that a particular site wants to log you in. So what we are going to do is we are going to digitally sign this request. So I have to just click on sign. Now my authentication is done, and this email service provider would come to know who I am and it would log me in. So I didn't need to enter a username password. I needed to simply connect to my Ethereum wallet. And now suddenly I can see, okay, in the past, many people have already sent me emails on this particular email ID. And it is like a regular email address. I can click here in the compose. And here, now this is my email address, right? So anybody can see that here, and I can then share it with people. And nobody really knows who they're communicating with. My identity is now just some Ethereum address. No name, no IP address, no nothing linked. And it has all the features that we need. We can attach files. We can have read receipt turned on, delivery status notification, priority, all that information here. And we can just enter any email ID here, even a conventional email ID, and we can send out emails. It's not like I can only send to other Ethereum accounts. I can send it to a regular Gmail address also if I want from here. So this is something that I feel all investigators must be aware of. There are normal email services also which have a lot of privacy built in. So one classic example would be something called Proton Mail. Don't know if you guys have heard about it, but that is used by a lot of criminals also. So Proton Mail is an encrypted mail service. So they say they are based in Switzerland and it's extremely private and nobody ever comes to know. Because in many crimes, if you tell Gmail Officially, you send them a letter from law enforcement, they give you information. Well, Proton Mail doesn't, and nor does the ETH Mail. And in fact, the ETH Mail doesn't even know who you are. So I've noticed that a lot of criminals, they use Proton Mail or then they use the ETH Mail. So these are two things that you should be comfortable with. Questions? All clear? Okay. The next thing that I wanted to talk to you about is the concept of a DEX, or a decentralized exchange. So now we all know what a centralized exchange is. I showed it to you last time. You give your KYC, create an account, log in and buy and sell crypto. But there are decentralized exchanges where they don't know who you are. So let's take a simple example. Let me first just go back to this site, right? So I go to this site called Uniswap. It's one of the most popular, and I think one of the first DEX in the world. Now, when I go there and I click on this launch, I'm now opening up a very simple interface which looks like this. Because I have MetaMask in the same browser, it's already logged me in here, and it shows me that this is my balance right now. Now I can use this platform to exchange between any two Ethereum based tokens in the world. So I could say that, okay, you know what, I have 0.01 Ethereum which I'm ready to spend, and in return I can choose which crypto I want to buy. So as a simple example, let's say I want to say USDT, which is a stable coin. So it will now calculate the best price. So it shows me that in return for 0.01 Ethereum, it will give me 30.3227 USDTs. And all that I need to do is click on swap and the transaction goes through. Do you realize the difference between this and a centralized exchange? In a centralized exchange, we log in somewhere, we do KYC, they have information about us, and whatever transactions we do, they have a detailed list which they can give to the government. When we use something like a Uniswap, there is no KYC information. Nobody knows who we are. We can buy and sell between any crypto. And there is absolutely, virtually zero trace. Anybody in the world can create these liquidity pools. So right now, when I said, I want to swap Ethereum for USDT, somebody in the world has created this pool. And that's how I am able to utilize the pool and do my exchange, and that person gets a commission. But I don't know who the person is. Their identity is not known to us. This is the concept of a decentralized exchange. Now, there are about 408 decentralized exchanges which are popular. So there's another site I'd like you to know about, which is called defilama.com. The link is there in your resources. Now, when I go there, it shows me that under the category of DEXs, which is decentralized exchanges, there are 408 protocols. So I can click here. And now I can see all of them in detail. So Uniswap is here, you see, at number 2. And then there's something called Curve and Pancake Swap and Sushi Swap. So all of these DEXs, they may have their own specialities. So Uniswap only works on Ethereum. So you can swap Ethereum tokens. Pancake Swap, I think, to the best of my knowledge, works only on Binance Smart Chain. So you can swap Binance tokens on it. So like this, there are 400 plus DEXs, and those are very easy to use. I'm not saying only criminals use them. That's not the right way. But definitely criminals prefer to use this, and not just criminals. People who don't want to pay taxes, right? So now in many countries, including India, there's a tax on crypto. But if you use a DEX, the government doesn't come to know that you've made money, because you could open a MetaMask wallet without giving any information about yourself. You could then easily buy and sell cryptos. How would anybody know what profit you've made? So the government kind of has no method to catch you. However, if sometime in the future you are caught and the government comes to know what is your address, then it is very easy. All you need to do is go to an Explorer, enter the address, and you will see every transaction ever done by that particular address. Is that clear? Let's take an example of that. So for example, when I talk about this address of mine, right? So let me copy this address and then let's see what it shows up on an Explorer. So here, this address of mine, shows that the balance right now is so much. And it shows me that, okay, I've done only one transaction, which was done about 266 days ago. How many ever transactions we've done using that particular address will instantly show up here, because these are pseudo anonymous blockchains. So you need to wait for the criminal to make one mistake. Once you get that address, you can go back and get all the transactions. But remember, this will not happen in a privacy blockchain like Monero. Clear? Questions? Okay. Another thing that I wanted to discuss with you about was, when we look at all these different cryptos, now these are some of the most popular exchanges, the centralized exchanges, and they have a law enforcement request system. So I've put the links here. So Binance is a very popular, maybe the world's largest centralized exchange. So if you're a law enforcement officer, then you can use this platform of theirs to make your request. And it's fairly easy to do. Of course, right now I just wanted to tell you that you would go here, you would click on this, and then you would begin your request. So of course, you will need your official email address and other thing, and then you can submit a law enforcement request, depending upon what the case is. Just open this up for you. So you can see that there are various kinds of options here. You can specify your country. You have to give your official email address, so they will not accept Gmail, Hotmail, Yahoo kind of stuff. Give the name of your agency, then a request category. So is it money laundering, fraud, extortion, ransomware, scam? You have a lot of list of crimes here. And here, what is the transaction ID or the wallet address, payment ID? You must be having some data. So let's say you've got a criminal here and you've got some part of the transaction ID. Now you want to know who all the transactions were done with. If it was done on a public blockchain, you don't need to go to Binance. You would just go to the Explorer. But if someone has used an exchange, the data is not going to be in the blockchain Explorer. The data will only be with the exchange, because the transactions are happening on addresses controlled by them. So we give them the data here, description, your email ID, all that here, and you can put your attachments and submit the request to them. Similarly, I put it in for Coinbase, which is the first listed stock crypto exchange in the world. Is based in the US, and WazirX is the largest Indian one. For most of you, you probably would end up using Binance. But again, whichever exchange it is, you can always Google and get their law enforcement request page. Another link here is for this very interesting database called REC, which has a very detailed list of all the hacks and attacks that have actually taken place in the crypto world. So it has full details of them. As and when the attacks are reported, they do a lot of analysis, and that information can sometimes become very useful to us, because it may be possible that citizens of your country are victims of this. So here you can see all the attacks that we talk about. They are all going to be here. So you remember the Poly network that I spoke to you about? Well, that's now become the world's second largest attack. Earlier it was first. And now very recently we had this attack called the Ronin attack. So that's now number one. That happened on 29th March last month. Poly network happened last year. So here you can see all the attacks, famous ones. I mean, there are 278 of them as of right now. All of them are here. You can click, go in deeper into it and see what really happened in that attack. And then if you're investigating it, this can be a very useful resource. Any questions? Someone's asked, is there any law enforcement request for Bitcoin? No, there isn't. So that's a very good question. So what happens is, Bitcoin is a project, a blockchain, but we don't know who's behind it, right? There's somebody called Satoshi Nakamoto, maybe real name, maybe fake mail, we don't know. So if we actually go to the Bitcoin site, right, you will notice that there is no about us. You go to any website in the world, there is a contact us, about us, but you will not find that anywhere here. There's no team behind it. Anybody in the world can be part of the Bitcoin project. So if we need to do any investigation, the only thing we can do is look at the blockchain explorers, which again are set up by random people. You can start up your own explorer tomorrow. I can do it. Anybody can run a node. So there is no official entity that we can contact for Bitcoin. But what we can do is we can go to an explorer and look at it. Now let's take an example. They said support Bitcoin. So now here I see an address, right? Now I can copy this address and I can take it to an explorer. Give me a second. Let's go to a Bitcoin Explorer. We can enter this address here. Here. Now, very interestingly, and this is something I was going to come to, we got this from the BTC or Bitcoin side. But it says there are two blockchains in the world with this exact address. One is BTC, one is BCH. So this brings us on to an interesting concept which is called a fork, F-O-R-K. You know, just like in a road, you can have a fork where the road divides into two. In the blockchain world, there is no centralized team. So what happened was in about 2017, in July, I think, the people who are controlling Bitcoin, which is the miners, right? Because they are the ones who are producing these new blocks and validating transactions. 80% of them said, let us improve the technology of Bitcoin by making some new algorithm called SegWit in it. 20% people did not agree. So they initiated a hard fork. And on 1st of August that year, I think, the Bitcoin blockchain broke into two. One part is the original Bitcoin, the other is the new one, which is called Bitcoin Cash or BCH, right? And all addresses that work on Bitcoin automatically work on Bitcoin Cash. And if on the day of that fork, you owned one Bitcoin, you automatically got one Bitcoin Cash free. And that is why you will see the same blockchain address works on both blockchains. This will not work on Ethereum or any other blockchain. For each blockchain, we have unique addresses unless they are a fork of the same original blockchain. So here we know it's Bitcoin, we click it. And now we want to see, okay, the person or the address behind Bitcoin website, they've made so many transactions till today. They've received about 13 Bitcoins, sent so many, this is their balance, and all their transactions are visible to us. So we can see all this, but that's about it. We can't really contact anyone and get any more information beyond this. Any other questions? All clear? Okay. So we've seen this. So now what I've done is for all the major cryptos. So Binance Coin is a popular one. So Binance is an exchange, but they also run their own crypto. They have their own stable coins. They do a lot of things. So these are details for that. This is Bitcoin. This is the fork of Bitcoin called Bitcoin Cash. This is another interesting one called Dash. Dogecoin, I'm sure you've heard of. Elon Musk keep talking about this particular one. That's another popular coin. You have Ethereum, or ETH rather, Ether. You have Litecoin, which was, I think, the world's second or third crypto after Bitcoin was created. You have Monero, the one I was talking to you about. I'll just briefly go deeper into that. We have Tether, which is a stable coin. Now, this is a very interesting one. So we will go deeper into Tether. And then we have something called Zcash. So what I want to talk to you about is, in Monero, it is private, which basically means you cannot find out about transactions the way you did in Bitcoin. So if a criminal uses this, honestly, in about 99% cases, there's nothing we can do. So we kind of just ignore this. There's not much we can do. Now, Tether is a very interesting platform. So what Tether does is, it runs a stable coin. It tells people in the world, if you want to buy US dollars on the blockchain, put money into my bank account and I will give you a crypto called USDT. And whenever you want, I'll give you dollars back. So Tether price is supposed to be always equal to $1. It fluctuates very little, otherwise it remains pretty stable. So if you want Tether to give you information, they have a form here for law enforcement. There's an email address and you can approach them and they may help you and give you some information. So Tether is based out of Hong Kong. And in many cases, they do cooperate with the law enforcement agencies, so they may be able to give you data. Because in Tether's case, there is no public blockchain for us to look at. That's the reason we only need to approach them. It's not like in Bitcoin's case. Okay. And finally, Monero, okay, we spoke about. So I've given you a list of cryptos here. So as your homework, you can go through all of these one by one. and you can see information about them. I've also given you these links. You can check them out. This is the link for the Uniswap that we were talking about. And another site that I want you to be aware of is called Local Bitcoins. So that's like a peer-to-peer way of selling or buying cryptos. So for example, right now, because I'm in India, it immediately opens that up and shows me in India. So these are the people who right now are ready to sell me Bitcoin against all these payment methods. In fact, there are even people who will do it against cash. I can find them here. They can meet me somewhere. They give me cash, I give them Bitcoin, or they give me Bitcoin, I can give them cash. That's also available. Now, the problem in this approach here is there's no way to get data, because if two people have met and exchanged in cash, there's nothing you can do. However, if they are using any of these online banking methods, then you can find out. So like this, all you can do is you can enter the name of your country here. Let's just say Malaysia, for example, and we can choose what kind of offers we are ready to accept here. So cash at ATM, and then we can search. So here it says that there is this one trader who is ready to sell us Bitcoin at this price in their currency. He's giving minimum 300, maximum 10,000. And here we can just click on buy. So payment method is cash at ATM, which means you fix an ATM, meet there, and then you give him the cash, he gives you the Bitcoin, or vice versa. So here we can see information about that person. That what are the hours in which they are. So 24 hours a day they are available. Can you see that here? So this is usually what we call as peer-to-peer exchanges. It's quite difficult to actually figure out and track what's really happening here. Questions? All clear? Great. So, and then here there's a crypto crime report. That is what we are going to discuss in the next session. So it'll be great if you guys can have a look at the report beforehand. And then next week we'll discuss what are the various kinds of crimes that are taking place. Those of you who are going to be watching this later, I'll share the link with you guys like I did last time. And you can just post your questions there and I can answer them for you. So any questions based on what we discussed last week or this week, you can ask me now, or you can always post it later. All clear? Awesome. So I'll see you guys next Saturday at the same time. Have an awesome weekend. 1 second. Someone just posted on chat. Okay, fine. That's it.
Sorry to interrupt.
Sure.
There are two participants, right? Lydia, and what's the name? Because I can see NA. I just need to mark. Shashank, thank you.
Okay. See you guys. Bye-bye. Have a